the conversation. It's the conversation. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. No filter, no restrictions. You about to get my opinion in its purest form. So my words, don't try to spin them. What I said is what I said. And what I said, I meant it. The gloves are off now when I'm coming out swinging. So engage in verbal combat, but you better be ready. Cause this here for me is light work, even if the topic's heavy. I'm ready for it all with no running from nothing. You just take the time to digest what I put in, no rushing. But time is moving, don't waste it. You want the real, come and face it. Come sit and talk to me if you want it straight without a chaser. And it might burn a little when you step on up to taste it. But it's nothing harsh, I promise. Just a little conversation.
Well, everybody, welcome to the first episode 2026. The conversation with Harold and Dave. As always, there's Dave, there's Harold, and there's the jackass Keone in the background getting ready to talk. And I wasn't even going to start with Venezuela, and this pops on the screen. U.S. forces seize 2 tankers. So why not? Let's just start with there because a lot of people are arguing over the wrong things. You hear a lot that, well, before I get into that, let's just start with this. Your thoughts on Venezuela. We're going to just start there and we're going to go from there. Let's start with you, Harold.
Well, I think the United States is becoming an international crime syndicate. We just going out and just kicking in doors and snatching stuff that really we don't own. And I think we don't practice what we preach as it relates to laws, law and laws. If we're not following American or constitutional laws, we're not also following international laws. And I think my concern is why is Congress so silent? You know, they're not saying anything. They're allowing what is transpiring to transpire. And that's disturbing to me because they have a role, they have a responsibility to act, and they're not doing anything. And that's allowing this president and some of his cabinet members to feel that we have the authority to do whatever we want, when we want, where we want, and to whom we want. And, it is concerning when you can snatch a president out of his country. You did it under the quote unquote auspices of one thing, and now you changed your court filing to something else. That, it's crazy. So it tells me that we're not sure, or he's not sure what to do or why he's doing what he's doing. But I think it's more so focused on 2 things: oil and voting machines. And I'll land my plane.
I think he was also very surprised at the responses from a lot of European leaders who said responses that they got. The most clapworthy responses that he got was from Putin and Netanyahu. When those are the only 2 people that are clapping as a that tells you a lot. Dave?
Well, one comment on not disagreeing with anything Harold's saying. In fact, Stephen Miller recently came out in talking about this in Greenland. And because I think, Stephen Miller is definitely one of the important powers behind the throne. And he just basically rejected international law entirely, saying we live in a world where people have power. And, he made this argument that we don't live in that world of laws. We live in the world where it's all about power. And so he laid out this very naked, amoral, non-legal view that is just, kind of everything Harold just said. Right? He just basically said, "Oh yeah, that's how we're doing it." I think Dan Dresner had a great comment on. He said the variation in competence on display in this whole thing is amazing, and we have such a mixed bag here. We have extremely competent military operation, and really just a high point, right? Perhaps aided by inside intel and perhaps acquiescence on some parts of the Venezuelan government. We don't know. We'll see about that. But nevertheless, great thing. But then we just see just rank amateur action here, and if you laid this out, if you laid it out as, hey, we have gone in, arrested. We had a law enforcement operation to arrest one guy, and now we are using our sanctioning ability on the oil to control what goes on in the country and have an impact on it to open it up and change its thing. You'd be closer, right? We'd still have problems about violating international law and all of that, but instead we have Trump. Oh, we're doing this, and we're going to run the country, right? We're going to decide who comes in,
That always
and
works out.
yeah, and the thing is that that was not the plan, right? That was not what he was supposed to say on that, and so we just have this very um, this mishmash of messaging, and so when I have thoughts on Venezuela, it's like, well, it's really hard to have thoughts. Some of these things are fine. Like I have no problem taking the tanker. Oh, that's awesome. But blowing up fishing boats wasn't. Taking seizing Maduro is absolutely a violation of international law. I'm surprised we haven't had a UN Security Council action. We haven't, but I'm pretty sure this is going to end up with an indictment for Trump at the ICC. At some point, this has to go to the ICC, because how do you kidnap? How do you seize the president of a signatory to the Rome Statute and there not be a referral? I don't know.
You could get away with it if it's a country you're at war with, right? You get away with it if it's a country you're at war with. When you're not at war with that country, I mean, you've done some things. It's been a one-sided thing, but that's what a lot of Venezuelans were wary about. Like people, of course, when you're looking on social media, Twitter, they're like, I see a lot of Venezuelans celebrating. And one in Venezuela said, yes. And also here you see a lot of us concerned because we know when you guys remove leadership, you don't just go away.
Mm-hmm.
So now what's going to happen with our country?
And you didn't remove the regime. This
No.
was not regime change. The Chavista regime, started by Hugo Chavez, handed over to Maduro, has now passed to Delcy Rodriguez. And the regime is there. And in fact, we have reports. They are out with their security forces going around looking, going boarding buses, taking people's cell phones, looking for people that celebrated. Right? They are repressing. They said, yes, all of you that came out and celebrated, we see you and we're coming for you. And so the regime is getting a breather in some ways because of this, because they're now in power. The Trump administration's decided that the people that won the election are not worthy of running the country.
Hmm.
And very different. This is very different from Panama, where you went in and you immediately put Guillermo Endara in, who had won the election. You immediately had him installed as the president of the country. Here, you're not in control of anything, really. You're trying to coerce the Venezuelan government to sell oil to the United States, and then the United States wants to have control over the money. We're not sure how that's going to work, but you're using the ability to blockade the country because you could do that. That's reasonable to do pragmatically. Whether it's legal, well, their oil industry is under sanctions, so okay. But you're really depending a lot on your ability to control things, and you really aren't in control as much as you're saying you are.
Wait, Harold, do you mean this regime is not saying that the people who won an election, they're not happy with those people? Well, that's a new concept from this
Hmm.
regime.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I'm looking at how we just snatching bodies. That's what I'm trying to figure
Well, I
out.
mean, we're doing it here. Why not do it there?
I guess. I guess. But my point, I guess where my deepest concern is you made the claim about drugs, drugs, drugs. You blew up a whole lot of boats, killed and murdered people, and then everything after
Allegedly.
you snatched the body was oil, oil, oil. If we're talking about drugs, if drugs was the justification for you going to snatch the body, then why are we now talking about oil?
Well,
See, we create these smoke screens and we get lost and find ourselves moving in the wrong direction, all because we're not paying attention to what, not just what they do, but what they say. If the two match, if the two continue to match and there's a level of continuity, then I would understand. But what we're seeing now is he used one to try to justify the others. And then why are you consulting with, if you're going to snatch a body, why are you consulting with oil executives? Why are we having a conversation? What do they have to do with drugs?
Well, you
If,
say,
again, that's the
oh, my bad.
justification for your actions
Mhm.
in snatching a body, then I just need to understand how this square peg is going to go through that round hole, because it's just not fitting right now.
With a hammer. That's
Oh,
how that's going to
okay.
happen. Uh,
Jigsaw, something else. Oh,
you
my
you
bad.
said we're not paying it. Well, I know what you mean when we're not paying attention. There's a certain sect of people not paying attention because it was about drugs, drugs, drugs. We haven't done this in Colombia, and we have not done this in Mexico. So it can't
Yeah,
be
but
about
when you fly 1,700 miles to blow up a boat claiming they were bringing the drugs over here, and I don't know many go fast boats that are going to cross the equator coming from southern hemisphere up to the northern hemisphere. I'm just saying.
Dave, were you surprised at the non-supportive responses from nations that you considered allies or that, um, especially
Oh
European
no,
nations?
I'm surprised they aren't more honest. I mean, this is this is a violation of international law extraordinaire. And if you think about it, every nation, the leaders of nations drive their policy, drive their public statements. It is in the interest of every leader of every nation to assert that no one can come in and kidnap me in my sleep and take me out, that's a no-no, right? So and it is a aspect of customary international law that you don't do that. And so but I know that a lot of people are stepping gingerly because Trump is going to retaliate against them in various ways if they do. But of course, Colombia, the Colombian president was talking to his people about, these guys that protect pedophiles are coming down here and because, to distract from the Epstein file. So he was very critical. Remember, when we invaded Panama, we were roundly condemned around the world, and so there, you kind
Well,
of the U.S. weathers that kind of thing on a common basis.
yeah, because it's one thing to be condemned and it's one thing for somebody to do so. I mean, I live in America, so I don't want to be I don't need anybody sanctioning me and cutting off my food supply and my video games and all of that, but everybody condemns but nobody does anything.
Yeah.
What can they do?
Well, and it'll be interesting, like I say, if there's a referral to the ICC, the International
Mhm.
Criminal Court, you could have Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, maybe Marco Rubio, maybe Pam Bondi. You could have indictments handed out, and these people could have to watch where they travel in the future. Donald Trump probably won't have to worry about it, but a lot of these other folks, and because you have now uh, committed an act
Mhm.
on the sovereign territory of a signatory of the Rome Treaty. So now there
Mhm.
can be a referral. The question is, there has to be a referral, and it would presumably come from Venezuela, but right now, Delcy, there's an aspect of this. You wonder to what extent this has been a outsourcing of a coup, right? When I look at this, I say, hey, um, the government's still in power, right? The regime is still in power. Maduro is out, but other people are now in charge. There has been since October, there were back channel negotiations going on to try to come up with a deal with the US where Maduro might step down and Delcy Rodriguez would take over. This was reported in the Miami Herald. Oh, this is out there. It was going through Qatar, right? The Qataris were being the go-between because they're very chummy with the the Trump administration, and they are, they're the financiers. They handle the money for Venezuela generally, so because they're part of OPEC, right? So this has been there, and so I'm kind of like, the the Venezuelan government might not rush to make that referral. And that's another thing, though. I think in some ways the fix might have been in on this, that we just put Delcy Rodriguez in power, and she's quite pleased with that.
Well, this is why I said, like you mentioned, like Harold, he just mentioned we took the president, but not the regime. And that's why I made up the point of this is a country you're not at war with. As everybody knows, I was in Iraq when you take Saddam, but we had a mission. They had to capture every single person in the Ba'ath Party. Every single person. One of my jobs when I came back 2 years later as a Cav Scout was we had a list of people. They were on the Ba'ath Party. You find them, you get them. It makes no sense to remove the leader and leave the entire party or anybody that's majorly supportive on the party that can take power. Then you're not really doing anything.
Yeah, but some things are better left undone because remember now when we did do what we did in Iraq, what happened? It created instability in the region.
Mhm.
And if I'm not mistaken, did it also spur the growth of or the initiation of ISIS?
Yeah, well, that's why
I mean, correct me if
people
I'm
are
wrong.
always
They
concerned when someone removes their leadership, no matter good or bad, because you can remove a leadership that's bad, but what happens after that? But I was sticking to the point of we're going in and removing a sitting president of a country that we are not at war with. Imagine if someone tried to do that here.
Yeah,
I agree.
and and in the immediate aftermath, we Al Qaeda actually went uh, into Iraq,
Iraq. Hmm.
and we had all the fighting. We had years of fighting, and
Hmm.
many. The Iraqis suffered for that, right?
Yes.
The Iraqis died. I don't know, thousands, right? Thousands of Iraqis died because of that. Um, and then eventually ISIS comes out as a alternative to Al Qaeda and is kind of a separate branch. But the instability was more immediate in the Al Qaeda in Iraq
Hmm.
uh, infiltration, and everybody, all the crusade, everybody coming into the country to start killing everybody, Americans, and they were quite happy to kill Iraqis to try to convert them to their Salafist, their ideology. So
And a lot of people, they're, of course, Trump supporters complain, oh my God, here you go, you lefty, you're complaining because a lot of people on that side are not complaining as much about what he did. It's the process in which he did it, continuously undermining Congress, continuously undermining law. And that's been the biggest issue. And Chris put this point up here, but hey, what better time to bring on our guest that's going to join us for the rest of the time? Chris, you you've got this comment up here. How you doing, Chris? Democrats flip control and take the
I'm doing
House and
good.
Senate. Trump gets impeached. He's immune, I guess, to a point. But what about the rest of the clowns in this car? Are they accountable? And I think that's what Dave, you were kind of running down the names of lists of people who could be held accountable for
Hmm.
the actions taken in Venezuela from day one. And let's not forget, we've also blown up boats in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So it's not just Venezuela.
Chris, come on, you're here.
Hey,
Fourth.
didn't want to interrupt. Hey, thanks for having me on. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just real curious. Like Bondi, Hegseth, like we get rid of Trump in an impeachment, and he really doesn't have much to say about it. He's gone, but he's immune because of the latest Supreme Court ruling. But what about the rest of them? Are they like, do they have anything to worry about, or are they just going to ride off into the sunset as grade A dickheads?
Well, I think recent comments, even by Elon, said basically he's coming back in to help them with the 2026 election because he fears if
Mhm.
they lose control that a lot of people are going to jail. Steve Bannon said this, right after Trump got elected, that hey, listen, we got to hold on to this because if we lose, we're going to jail. No, he said that actually before the 2024 election,
No.
that if they lose, a lot of people are going to jail. So we know it's true. They know the crimes they've committed, and they know unless they get a pardon,
So
they're done.
where is the system broken? Like,
Well,
where's the checks and
that's a
balances not
5 week
working?
show.
Is there a backdoor solution?
Well, I think with uses of force, if we're talking, I mean, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking
Yeah.
about uses of force, and the with Venezuela, right? Um, there's probably nothing prosecutable here, right? In some ways, even though we always talk about the legality of going to war, um, there's very little judicial review of it. It usually ends up being a political question. If it worked and we're happy with what happened, it's usually okay. And so I don't know that there will be any downstream from this. There's plenty of corruption, though. I mean, I think that these guys
No
have
shortage.
been doing a lot of very, very wonky stuff. And there's plenty of incompetence. And so I think that you're gonna the
Swampful.
que- the question is, if you impeach Trump, or if Trump dies or becomes incapacitated, all of the I think those second things are far more likely at
Yeah.
this point. He is increasingly just not in good shape, right? It's increasingly obvious that he's not
Whoa, whoa, whoa! That is fake news. He's had physicals that said he is in peak
right.
human. His health is better than Barack Obama.
the,
We have
the point
we
is
have
there are,
He can
are
run the
various
Boston Marathon, I guess.
avenues to which Trump might not conclude his term, at which point it becomes JD Vance, right? And so JD Vance picks, and the punishment in government is usually getting out of government, right?
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
and so I would expect that that's where these guys go. And one thing I look at is, Stephen Miller. I don't know that he survives to be in a JD Vance White House,
No.
right? And
I
so
hope.
JD Vance, you haven't really he keeps out of a lot of this stuff. And so I think that's going to be the question of who he's going to want to put in and what's going to happen there. Um, the key thing, though, I think, is not just Democrats taking control, because that's increased. It seems like that's more and more likely. Republicans in the Senate are starting to move. They're already talking about legislation that would stop all this Greenland talk, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh Jesus.
so
Yeah.
we've had him get in Trump's face the over Epstein. Waiting to see. I don't know. In all the news we've got going on, there are two veto overrides that are coming up. And that these are things that passed both houses unanimously, and
Ooh.
Trump vetoed them. And so we'll see what happens there. But then we might also see over this Greenland that this is too damn stupid, right? Chuck Tom Tillis was saying, "I'm sick of stupid," and this is stupid. And so I think you're seeing that part of government may start asserting itself and saying, "Hey, we've got to, we've got to assert ourselves to keep things on track,
It'd be nice
or
if they
less
did.
off track." Nothing is on track. I'm
nothing.
sorry,
I mean, nothing has been on track for a hot
yeah,
minute.
nothing's on track.
You know, and it's the age-old thing. If you mention it's off track and you have any type of complaint, you're anti-American, of
Trump
course.
derangement syndrome. We all have Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
Ooh, Trump
He's
derangement
deranged, all
syndrome.
right.
I have not heard that one before. It's a new
What?
one for me.
How have you not heard that? That is the
TBS.
standard complaint that anyone that complains about Trump. Hell, Lori got that from a Facebook friend when she said something, just criticize him or something. He went straight to Trump derangement syndrome.
Yep. I've been
Yeah, of
called out
course.
on it a few times for stuff I've said. Yeah. They don't like truth.
No, and hold on. I don't like something right now, and I definitely have to fix it. Harold, I do this to you all the time. Why are you the short man in the middle?
I don't know.
Let me
I
make you
don't.
tell. There we
Now I'm the
go.
big dude in the middle now.
Well,
I'm the
I'm
big
like, I
I'm
just
the big
looked
guy in the
over.
middle now. Now I got to sit
I'm like,
back.
why is he so tiny in the middle? Yeah, like you said, it sets it sets crazy precedences. I was looking at, and I know some people that watch this are a fan of Joe Biden for some reason. I'm looking at, for as many people as I look on Twitter and places that have crap to say about Obama, and I look at him and I look at what's come after him, and I'm like, you know what his legacy is right now? The last sane president with dignity and and kind of who could act like a president.
Sanity and respect. Yeah.
Like, I
I'm
how
always
far
amused
we
at
have
how
fallen.
the folks on the right think that, well, one they think I'm a Democrat, right?
Yeah,
That's the thing.
that's the funniest part for
That
me.
that is so funny to me. And but it's also just like, oh, Biden did it, or Clinton, right? Clinton was on Epstein Island, and I'm like, and we all just have this thing. It's like, look, we don't worship these guys, and
Yeah,
Biden
let
was
'em
better.
fly.
I would have voted for a ham sandwich over Trump in 2020, right?
Mm.
And Biden was better than a ham sandwich. That's about the bet. I loved Biden I used to be so Biden and McCain were my senators. I loved them back when they were senators because they would come out and say intelligent things. And I used to say, if they disagreed with, if I was in a different position, if I had a position different than theirs, I needed to go back and rethink my position. And so they were always my litmus test. And I always remember saying, God, I hope neither of them run for president.
Well, the problem with you saying, I hope neither of them run for president, is by the time these people become president, they're 900 years old, and we're back to electing people 70 years old, as if that's a cool thing to do.
So
Well,
I got a
yes.
legitimate question.
Okay.
So we elect our officials to do our bidings and represent us. And somewhere along the line, these idiots decided that they were the ones that were going to make the rules as far as their term limits. So now the American people have absolutely nothing to say about term limits, about maybe if you're too old, you have to be a certain age to run. Maybe you have to be less than a certain age to run. Like there should be a window. Legos cuts out at 99. Even they know what's going on. So is there any recourse? Like, I just feel like there's absolutely nothing that the American people can do. They can vote and put in new people that do different things. But as far as term limits and maintaining a fresh government and a recent voice in the government, not one that's, 40 years ago, their principles don't really apply anymore to the world that we're in today. We're stuck. Is there anything we can do?
Well, we can amend the Constitution. That would take constitutional amendment,
But it's up
to
to those
put those
idiots that we
parameters in place.
elected.
Hold on,
Huh?
Chris.
Say again?
It's up to those idiots that we elected to amend the
No.
Constitution.
You can have a
Constitutional amendment.
constitutional
We,
convention.
as the people, we can go through that process.
Oh.
Yeah, eventually it'll go back to Congress to.
I didn't know that.
I don't. Does it go to, if you go the constitutional convention route? Does it go to Congress? I think the convention route bypasses, because I thought that
states.
was the idea. There's 2/3 of Congress, and then it goes to the states. Or you could call, now you might need Congress to call the constitutional convention. So you're never going to get Congress completely out of the deal. But the thing is, if you create a demand for it, right? If you create an interest in it and a demand for it, it'll be there. I will say that I think the age question, well, the answer has always been that term limits are at the ballot box, right? And that if you don't like somebody, you get rid of them. And the counter argument to term limits was that a lot of people like their representation, right? We may not like Congress as a whole, but a lot of people like their individual folks. And it's also, there's the idea that for a lot of those folks, seniority helps, and having experience in Congress is seen as being a good thing. And so I am a professor, and I am rehearsing the arguments
Well,
like
no,
you.
I
But
understand.
don't blame me for these
No, no,
arguments.
no. I don't. I
No,
don't
they're
blame you
good.
because
But
I don't.
that's to
Hold
be
on.
honest, that's the counter argument.
I don't blame you because it's a good thing to say because of course I always say it's and not towards you, Chris. It's always a lazy argument to be like, all of these politicians are corrupt, all of them are liars. There are a lot of people that put in a lot of friggin' hard work to get a lot of things done for a lot of people in communities. Heck, I'm looking at one on the screen. So we do that sweeping generalization, but I have up here how it would actually work, Dave. So Constitutional Convention initiation. States or voters call for convention, often to address issues in legislature void or to update outdated laws. Delegated elections. Citizens elect delegates specifically for the convention to represent their interests. Deliberation. Delegates meet, debate, and propose revisions, which can range from minor tweaks to entire new articles, often requiring significant consensus proposal. Approved changes are drafted in specific amendments or a new constitution, and how it's ratified is these proposals must then be approved by the public via ballot or by state legislatures to take effect, ensuring voter consent. So the public does get to vote on those things. It's just like when you're voting on propositions and things like that,
Yeah.
it still comes back to you because in many places, Chris, there are laws or policies people want to get passed. The most recent one, I forgot what it was that happened in Louisiana. And when people are educated on what they're voting for, that Harold talks about all the time, not just worrying about the presidential election, there's millions of things that you're voting for all year long. And when the public is educated on that, then they go out and vote. When people educate them, like, hey, if this passes, this is what's going to hurt you or help you. And then they go out and vote, and they'll vote it down or they'll vote for it. And it'll be left up to that.
And the thing I would not necessarily, I wouldn't put term limits at the top of my agenda. If we could talk about a constitutional amendment, I would put campaign donation limits, right?
Mm.
Going back to where corporations could not, and where you had a limit, because I think was it
Level the playing field.
I keep wanting to say Manchester United, but that's a
That's
football.
soccer
That's a
team.
soccer team,
Citizens
right?
United.
Citizens United. I think that case, because we are just now, and the amount of money, right? It is, when I was starting out, it was impossible for someone like Elon Musk to dump that much money in, right? You had to get people to go into your pack. You had to, and so that, to my mind, is would be the big thing to reestablish here. And we may see a framing of that, right? The billionaires are I think it's related to the Epstein files. There is increasingly a bipartisan grassroots distaste with billionaires. And you're seeing kind of a class division forming that might cross party lines. Now, but that's where Chris's point of, hey, the people who are in power because they need the money from the billionaires to be there. And so asking, that's where you might have a really big gap between the elected officials who are dependent on billionaire financing, on that 1% crowd, um, and are in real risk of losing their position if they lose their support, um, to versus the grassroots who think that this is bullshit, and we all, you know, a vast majority of voters are probably against billionaires, and that is where I think you really have that divide. And I don't want to sound like a socialist, but because that is socialism. That is what socialism is about. Socialism is not about the government providing you resources, right? It's about the ownership of capital and the amount of, although actually it's the amount of, they go to that issue because the concern is that the people who own the capital, the means of production, will have disproportionate political power, right? And if I tell you that, hey, there's a ideology out there, or there's a theory of the world that thinks that that people who own vast amounts of wealth or have a disproportionate power and will craft the system to to disadvantage normal people. You would probably not necessarily go with that socialism, right?
Oh,
It would
so
probably sound
Yeah, it would.
oh,
palatable.
oh,
I would have
so
And
went
white
with maybe
white people.
communism.
Okay, got it. Harold, I'm just joking. Harold, one of the things he said, and he talked about having a cap for the amount of money that you can put in, because correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people believe that's why Hillary was boosted over Bernie Sanders. They believe that was a big part of it, the amount of money that was delegated to her back in that election cycle. Am I remembering that wrong?
No, it's insane. The amount of money that is allowed to be poured into our elections to influence our elections. And again, as Dave alluded to earlier, the repeal of Citizens United or amending it. The fact that we even allow the law, or the law even allows people to donate dark money. Where you don't know who's giving what, so they could be giving almost anything. And we just after this last election, it was said that Elon invested 140 something million, and he ended up with contracts that granted him $8 million a day in earnings of the billions that he's. So I mean, when we bottom line for me is I don't think any corporation should be able to donate to any candidate for any reason. That's just me. I don't know how many people feel that way. Simply because corporations don't vote, so they shouldn't be allowed to influence the vote. That's just my philosophy. And if we don't get all this money, quote unquote, out of it, then we won't force our elected officials to go into the communities to start connecting with the people to earn their vote. Right
I
now, they can stay
I
home
didn't
and do
think
a couple
about
of ads on TV, on social media, whatever, to influence you to vote for them, as opposed to knocking on a few doors here and there and connecting with the people in their communities. Right now, I can't say when the last time I've had a town hall.
You know what? I
Here,
didn't think
I don't
about
want
that.
to have town
The
hall.
when I moved up here in 2012, the amount of people that would come knock on my door in election season has dwindled, but the amount of text messages I get to donate it
Oh
has
yeah,
risen. So it's like, why
Crazy.
go knock on the door and talk to you if I could just text you and say, "Give me the money"?
social
Uh,
media has made us less social.
Anti-social
I
media, huh?
didn't think about that. That is well. Speaking of philosophies, turning point. Woo! Well, I tell you this. Poor Charlie Kirk. When you die before your wife, the one thing that you think is, "Oh, I hope she doesn't marry really quick." You never imagine her walking out to
Why
fireworks,
is that an issue?
right? You never well, it's a selfish thing. Yeah, because if, you die and she gets married in a week, that says something, right? But
the
never do
memes
you
have been epic. The memes on this have
yeah.
been so
Have been
epic.
crazy because, like the memes say, you don't imagine your wife after you die walking out to fireworks in an auditorium. So, Turning Point had a big event and shit show, and it was quite funny watching on social media. The Black conservatives who weren't allowed to go in the main auditorium, but they got to hang around the merch counters. That was funny, but some things were happening in there that they weren't expecting. Guests taking big shots at each other. Ben Shapiro firing off at Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson firing off at Ben Shapiro. Conservatives getting mad because new shocker, Ben Shapiro supports Israel. Oh, what a shocker. And it got a little messy in there. Some people framed it as people who spew hate hating on each other. There's a civil war going on in there, and people don't know whether to sit back and watch it like a football game and laugh or to take it as something serious. But it is getting chippy. What's happening?
I mean, sooner or later they're going to start eating themselves.
Well, you've had very disparate elements brought together under Trump, and you've had just a lot of things there. And Charlie Kirk was a faction. Charlie Kirk was a point of view. He was a unifying figure himself for a group of people, but he was definitely in and opposition to Nick Fuentes and the
Right.
Groypers. I mean, the Groypers had just a total beef with him, and I think part of turning point, Charlie Kirk probably, and I'm not, again, it's an impression, but that he exerted control over it, so you kept the factionalism a bit under control. Um, and so I think without him, now people are vying for more openly for control and influence. So that's part of that. Also, you just have the whole shattering of the coalition over the Epstein files, over Trump promised everything to everyone and ended up delivering only to some of them. And I think that, you know, and we're seeing past Trump. I think turning point is looking past Trump, right? Trump is not the unifying figure of turning point, even though I think Don Jr. went up and had him on his phone. They didn't even have Trump there, right? And so you're seeing the conservatives without that without Trump as a unifying figure, and you're seeing all the divisions within them. And what I found fascinating was, I always said Hillary Clinton, when she talked about deplorables, she was really trying to not talk about everyone who supported Trump. She was saying, hey, look, there's some people who are deplorable, but they're the racists and white supremacists, and then there's everyone else. And how do we appeal to them? That's what she was saying in that moment. And all everyone heard was, you think Trump supporters are deplorable, right? And
Sounds
what
like
I saw at Turning Point was a lot of Trump supporters, a lot of conservatives who are not deplorable, finding out we got Nazis, right? We got Nazis, and because that was not what they were exposed to, and they weren't. And so I thought, and apparently that sort of thing, Charlie Kirk's funeral for a lot of people, the naked hate on display there turned massive numbers of Trump supporters off. And the argument from people who go in and read comments and engage in this and study cults and things like that is that they had never believed when people said Donald Trump was hateful. They never believed that because they saw propaganda. They saw they're in an echo chamber that said all of these claims of the left, they're lies, they're propaganda. To even
It's
entertain them is treason.
not to
And then
cut
they
you
see
not,
it
not to
and
cut
they
you not
got
to cut
turned off.
not to cut you off, Dave. That's the thing that always drives me crazy when they said they didn't see it when the man would say hateful things out of his mouth every time he turned around. What president calls an interviewer fat or stupid or
little piggy.
or a
That's what
little?
we don't get about Trump supporters. They don't see that because they didn't want to see it. They were sheltered from it. They were told that it was, the propaganda from the other side. There were a lot of ways that messaging was under control. And remember, it's part of the media, right? You don't see. I mean, goddamn, we got OAN. Fox wasn't conservative enough. We got Newsmax and OAN now, you know. And if you watch that, why should you know any of them?
Well, I would add to that. I think there was also, and what I discovered after Charlie Kirk's incident was, I firmly believe that there was algorithmic manipulation that took place with social media. I do believe that there's a certain segment of the population that saw only one side
Mhm.
of Charlie Kirk for the most part. And the side that I saw wasn't Christian, wasn't supportive, wasn't, inviting or welcoming, and wasn't friendly at all. And so I can't, it's hard for me knowing how these, algorithms play out. Whatever you click on, it's going to
Mhm.
either give you that or something close to it or related to it.
Mhm.
And so I do believe that there was some algorithmic manipulation. However, there are some full-throated, full videos where you couldn't splice it to say
Mhm.
we're going to pull this piece and that piece. That if you watched the full video, you saw both sides of Charlie Kirk without
Yeah,
without a doubt.
and that
So
yeah.
was there some manipulation going on? I believe it. However,
I bu-
I'm not going to allow that to be
Mm.
an excuse because guess what? Google is free, YouTube is free, and you can always search and see, hey, listen, did Charlie Kirk say this? Did Charlie Kirk say that? And get the actual raw video of
Mm.
his words being expressed to the masses.
Well, does your algorithm manipulation say more about the algorithm or more about you? Because depending on what clips you saw is depending on how the algorithm fed to you. Because I got to see all the now to your in their defense, the clips that I would get would be the clips that you're seeing of him saying things like, if I sat on a plane and saw a black pilot, I'd wonder, are they qualified, as if he doesn't understand what it takes to get in a cockpit. I don't think they call it that anymore. But to get into that position, I would see that, and I don't see the other clips of him saying unifying things. So, I mean, the algorithm fed me the opposite, but that could say more about me, Dave. Or
Well,
wait, hold on, Chris.
yeah, my algorithm, I get like I actually had to look up who Charlie Kirk was after he got shot. I had no clue. Um, Shows you how much I pay attention to that crap. But even now, when I go through my Facebook feed or whatnot, if I come across something like I really hate these idiots that just stand there and they just smile or whatever while there's text over or voiceovers from somebody else's clip.
Mhm.
So you can hit X and it says, well, why don't you want to see this? You either don't like the creator, it doesn't match my interests. So you can manipulate your algorithm. And if they show you the full video and you say, oh, well, this doesn't match my interests, well, they're going to start feeding you, you know,
It does that
oh,
on some of them, Chris, but it doesn't do that on everything.
Yeah.
YouTube, all you got to do is watch 2 a.m. Waffle House fights, and you're gonna get a whole bunch of them.
yeah, I got to be careful on my feed when
Yeah.
Jason sends me stuff.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, and I don't think it's a little I think I don't even know it's algorithm. I wouldn't even say manipulation. I just say it's the freaking algorithm because it figures out. Everyone has their own little echo chamber on their phone because the algorithm figures out it figures out fairly quickly. Although in some ways it misses. I'm convinced my algorithm thinks I'm a lesbian. I don't know why, but I'm very
Why
clearly
does it?
yeah, very
Why
clearly
does it
liberal,
think
but
that?
I get more. And it's great. Well, part of it is I guess I got one, and then I find it hilarious when you have a lesbian comedian talking about stuff. I'll watch that all day. So yeah, so
Harold, what is happening? What?
but
I surrender. I surrender. That's what I'm saying.
but the thing is though, it will not give you two sides, and you will not because we don't
Yeah.
as human beings our we want confirmation. Especially when you're not. I mean, Google is free, but I'm not on my phone to do work right now. I'm on my phone because
Be
I'm in a
entertained.
doctor's appointment or I'm just freaking bored with life, begging for a bullet, and I'm just wasting time till I die. And I try to make it as easy as possible. Um, but that at that point, though, cognitively, you are not primed for defense. Um, and they talk about persuasion theory. Whenever you can disarm people, you disarm people with humor. Once you make someone laugh, you interrupt their cross-examination of whatever you're saying, and people will accept what you say more easily. And so if you think about the cognitive state we're in when we're watching all this stuff, um, we're getting what we like, and if something comes on there that we don't like, we flip. I don't want to see that. And so I think though that is a huge. I think I would double, triple down on what Harold said. That is a huge fact of our political discourse is we have little individualized echo chambers.
One of the things that I think is a problem is you used to be able to have a little nuance to your side. Right now it seems like everything is you're either left or you're either right, right? And then you're lumped in with the most extreme of the left or the most extreme of the right. That's what we've gotten to. And it seems like if you have a little bit of wavering, someone heads explodes. You There used to be a time where maybe maybe it comes to gun control and your views are a little more conservative. But then when it comes to abortion, your views are a little more progressive. It feels like you can't be that anymore. You got to be left or you got to be right. And that's it. That's what I see. Or am I crazy?
No, I agree, and they're dismissive of the notion of being right or wrong. You know, doing what's right or doing what's wrong. You know, again, and I end up pivoting in conversations like this to this whole notion of right and wrong, and then how do we justify again being a quote unquote Christian nation, and I'm in air quotes, uh, which allows us to now abandon the principles or precepts that exist in the very Bible that we're supposedly ascribing to. Now, again, I know that we're not a Christian nation, although many would like to believe. You know, we can say Christianity may be the most prominent religion here, but nonetheless, if you're not practicing what you're preaching, then guess what? You are living a left versus right rather than a right versus wrong, reality. And that's where they're dismissive of the notions and make excuses for the wrongs or try to justify the wrong actions or activities that have transpired. As we talked about earlier when we're dealing with this whole notion of now Venezuela, and now they're talking Greenland and Cuba, and I guess they got a whole list of countries now that they're gonna potentially move forward.
Don't worry, they aren't. They aren't going to do it.
I doubt it. But again, to keep throwing it out there, you're really just creating instability and emotional instability more so than anything else.
Was looking for, because I told this guy I would put his response online for you guys' response, and now I can't find the clip. It was you and I. This was a couple weeks ago, where Dave. Did I get shut off, or that was just? Oh, that's just Harold. We were talking about.
Is this guy C. McPhail typing in stuff when he's
C.
like right there?
He's on the. Wait, well, he's doing it for the chat too.
Keep him engaged.
I don't want to interrupt you guys.
Whoa, we got a comment. I'm looking and it's like Chris. I'm like, Chris, why are you're right here?
Anyway. I don't want to interrupt you guys when you get on a flow. And I come
up with you need to interrupt my ass as much as possible.
So I cannot find it. It makes me mad because I was trying to find the clip of when Harold and you were talking about. It was something like analyzing the Republican body's Trump and terror. It was something we did a month ago. And this guy responded, Jonathan Casey he said, "Have you guys opened your eyes yet? Trump told you what he was going to do to fix it. Tariffs, they are new. Tax bills that's coming out. Regenerating petroleum to lower gas prices, which is already going down. If you're in California, it'll be a little while more before it goes down because they're a special kind of crooked in California. Our GDP is soaring, and you will see if you just open your eyes."
He didn't drink the Kool-Aid. He ate the
soup. Let me in.
You guys are the ones with your eyes closed because anytime it involves Trump, you guys cannot open your eyes.
Okay, but then I would ask him, show me one quote prior to the election or during the election process that was said that he was going to invade Venezuela, snatch up the president, and create a whole lot of, and also take their tankers.
No, Dave, in Trump's defense, he did say he was going to create ICE, and he did say we were going to get immigrants that were bad.
Right. I mean, and when it comes to Venezuela, he repeatedly said we would end these wars. It was a major portion of his pitch was that he was different from all these. He said it repeatedly. We won't do regime change. We won't do that.
Day one.
To the point he was going to end Ukraine on day one. And, the tariffs, by the way, up to this point, 80% of the costs of tariffs have been absorbed by companies, right? And there's a report out looking at it. So only 20% of the tariffs have been passed on to consumers at this point. Now, remember, being absorbed by country, the tariffs wiped out Ford's profit, right? You think that's good for the country?
No,
I mean, I know you all like to get down on corporations, but when they make profits, they invest, they do things. You can't run a company and not make profit. You'll go out of business, right? It's not good for American manufacturing if American companies can't make a profit. I don't care, what you're talking about. However, the report is that these companies, because there was uncertainty, they had stocks, they were able to do this, and the reporting is that's about to end, right? That the part where they absorb the lion's share of tariff costs is about to end. So 2026 will be the reckoning on tariffs. Oil prices are down because OPEC has increased its output by 2.9 million barrels a day. In the US, we are not drill baby drilling. We had a 7% decrease in the rig count, the number of rigs drilling. So if it's drill baby drill, right, the actual count, and you go to Baker Hughes, this is a thing that the oil industry tracks all the time. Our rig count is down 7% from the past year. So U.S. oil companies are on the verge of going into the red because the price of oil has come down due to OPEC's increase. They actually did away, they call it unwinding their limits that they had in 2024 production levels. And here's the silliness of this. It's always, low oil prices are good for the United States. Well, not good for the oil industry in the US. And Saudi Arabia and OPEC are trying to hurt, suppress US oil to get better market share, right? And because we have an administration that just thinks, lower oil prices must be great, we have a big problem. So the US oil industry may take a huge hit, and it's going to start shedding. It has started shedding jobs. Every job lost in the oil industry, there's a multiplier of 3.7, I think it is. And so you lose 3.7 jobs elsewhere. And so we're going to see some hits there. So all these points that this guy's making are, very problematic. Half of them aren't true, and they betray a lack of understanding of the underlying mechanisms, which is classic MAGA, the classic lack of understanding of how anything's work, a lack of understanding of how tariffs are paid, right? We saw that. So there we go. I'm sorry. That was me. I had to do that. I'll shut up.
here comes David with his facts. We know how we
Those facts
annoy
again.
people
Oh
with
my
that.
goodness.
I'm
Um,
sorry. That had to come out.
I told him, thank you for this. Oh wait, hold on. I passed it already. I said, well, basically what I responded to him was the problem is our eyes are open. Why do you keep telling me what someone said and not paying attention to what someone does? You keep telling us what he said, but you're not showing me anything that he does. His response, but how many push-ups can you three guys do? I think that was in response to our peak head sift thing, and he merged them together. So who knows?
How many push-ups can I do?
Yeah, us three.
That's called deflection and misdirection. That's what that's called.
I like Keone's odds, and I might surprise you.
I can do a lot of push-ups. Okay.
Well, I'm not
It's
surprised
innate.
anybody
I,
gains
I
speed.
pushed up
That's all I
half a Fort Still. I remember how to do it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Chris mentioned it, Harold, when you said Christian Nation, it always makes me laugh because, and it not makes me laugh at Christianity. It makes me laugh because I'm picturing Vivek Ramaswamy at Turning Points events, and everybody's just lambasting him for being Hindu and talking about this is a Christian country founded by Christians. And I'm like, how do you not even know your own history? Because all the founding fathers weren't Christian. Chris says about the Christian thing, most of the founding fathers were Masons. I think the Masons thing's just kind of thing they threw out there. They were what is it called?
Theists.
Theist, right? Yeah, and they don't focus on religion. So you had presidents, and I
aliens.
think what they don't
They had a
understand is
religion. They
no, no,
just
no, no. Hold on, because
Yeah,
I've
that's
captured it
funny.
now.
I love it.
Like a lot of them, they believed in God. They didn't believe in religion, and they this, and they said religion should have no place in politics. They literally said this.
Yes, they believe that very hard.
But everybody changes it to our forefathers founded a Christian nation. And I'm like, what history are you talking about?
Well, I would say even drill down even further. You know, if you say we're founded on a Christian nation, just turn around and ask one question: which Christian principles? Because you can't say you founded on Christian principles when you've human trafficked individuals, you've enslaved them, you've done a whole lot of stuff that's contrary to the Christian scriptures.
Oh, don't say that because they like to throw back. Well, in the Bible, it talked about slave. I was like, why do you keep bringing up Old Testament?
Christian scriptures. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah,
People
New
still,
Testament.
till this day, Harold, some people can't differentiate between the Bible, Old Testament, not to turn this into a church show,
All right.
and the Bible, New Testament, and not understanding that Christians support New Testament. So stop using Old Testament arguments.
Right. Well,
And it's interesting. Dan McClellan, I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's an online contributor. He's just really great. He's a
mm-hmm.
great scholar, and he brings these things in. But he likes to talk about the people who make these arguments, right?
Mhm.
And just one case in point, somebody was pointing out, hey, if the founding fathers were theists, then why did they put? And he had some inscription on the Liberty Bell, right? And so there was this gotcha moment that there's something from the Bible on there, and Dan McCullough was just I love the repost was, well, the Liberty Bell. The first answer is the founders didn't cast the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell was done in like 1740 or 50. It already existed. The founding fathers had nothing to do with the damn thing. And then, of course, the thing they wrote on it was about this question of freedom, and went exactly to the point that we're making, that they believed in God, but wanted you to be free, that you would have freedom in your beliefs. And
Yeah.
it really is. It is a interesting thing that I just also find the word Christian has changed so much since I was a kid. And
Which
people
is
are
crazy
now,
in itself, right?
yeah, well, and I see people talking about, well, I'm a nice Christian girl and I came home, but my fiance was Catholic and he wasn't Christian. I'm like, the F you talking about? They're the original Christians. They're the OG, OC. I mean, what are you talking about? Catholics aren't Christian. And so you've got this perverse view of what is and is not Christian going on, which speaks
I
to, and
love it.
so that argues against saying it's a Christian nation, right? If Christianity is some basic, generally held viewpoint, you might make it. But if you're going to just tell me Catholics aren't Christian, then
You
I'm
mean
going
the,
to
you
have
mean the
to.
people who will celebrate the Virgin Mary and wear crucifixes? They're not Christian. Okay, got it. All
Yeah,
right.
we have the masonry thing. That's interesting. And they had a very different attitude towards this kind of stuff
Yeah,
too.
like when Chris says, and they're having an Egyptian all-seeing eye in a pyramid. Why isn't there a cross on the dollar? It's just there's some videos out there that I love to watch. One is it was like 100 facts of history that we learned wrong in school.
I've been
You
watching
want to
those.
watch that, and it's just like, wow, I did learn it that way. That's ridiculous. That was a lie. The way we
But
we propagandize stuff in our education on history, and we teach it a certain way, and then you get older and learn it's all a lie. And you're like, what the hell did I go to school for and learn history backwards?
But are we, one thing is we're getting close to the end here. We haven't discussed
Oh yeah,
Renee Nicole Good.
Renee Nicole Good and your plates. I didn't know what you meant by your plates in your text, but what do we need to talk about Renee Nicole Good?
Renee Nicole Good is the 37-year-old woman who was shot by ICE today.
Oh, I
Mm.
did not.
I didn't know her name.
I've been thrust into the studio today, so I did not hear
Yes.
about this yet.
I
Really?
believe we are going to chant that name this summer.
Wait, so what? Okay, so kind of, I know when something happens, we don't have all the facts and all that, but
There's video.
what?
There's
What?
so much video.
I haven't watched anything yet, so that's why I want you to. I don't
Well,
want to just end the show. You
Well,
lead us in,
I,
Dave. What happened? I know she got
uh,
shot. You're just gonna say she got shot, but you know,
ICE is conducting operations in Minneapolis. And depending on where you start the video, Renee Nicole, we don't know who it is, right? We see somebody in a kind of purplish maroonish SUV
mm-hmm.
who's sideways, who's perpendicular to the street, waves someone by, and it looks like she's blocking ICE with her car. Although I look at it, I go, they could have gone around that shit.
Yeah,
Um,
there was enough room to
but
go around.
they get out of ICE agents, get out, start telling her to get out of the car. She backs her car up. At this point, an ICE agent comes in front of her car. She turns her wheels to go to
Oh,
complete
to
the
flee.
K-turn, basically.
Yeah.
But there's an agent in front of her on the driver's side. She moves forward. I believe from watching it many times, she does make contact with his leg. It's hard to see. She's just starting out. This dude, before as soon as he sees her and he's in front of her, he pulls his gun out. When she makes contact, he fires. He gets to the side of the bumper and fires again, killing her. Right. And we're gonna have to see, but um and you see that she drives off. And so now we've got the Bush administration, Noam, and all these folks immediately. She was a domestic terrorist, right? She's a domestic terrorist who threatened this guy, and he was defending himself. And most people, I've seen video from because this was a situation. There was a lot of people videoing what's going on. I've seen 3 or 4, I think now 4 different perspectives on this scene. So we're going to get a lot more about this in coming days. But now everyone is just outraged. The crowds, God love Americans, right? They just shot one of them and they are surrounding these guys in their face. One dude gets just pelted with a pepper ball in his face, and he's still yelling at the guy. Somebody had to get in between him to keep him off the agent. So, and now in Minneapolis, uh, there are agents, there are demonstrations going on, and it's Tim Waltz is talking about mobilizing the National Guard, presumably to protect the citizens of Minneapolis. So there's the video. That was the car going by. That the car
That's the agents getting out.
that's her. Right now, watch the guy's going to come around on the front of the bumper.
oh,
Yeah.
But I don't know
Okay.
if she
Now, I
made
just say,
contact.
do you feel that's
That part I
justified?
don't know.
no.
I didn't see the contact.
Well,
That's
you're going to
crazy.
see. Yeah, and the guy's walking around after. They're
Well,
saying, "Oh,
she
he went to the
probably didn't
hospital."
even see him.
Yep, and boom. We are
Oh.
getting many, many angles. We're gonna
And she crashes, as you can see.
the congressional investigation on this.
Okay. Oh, she did make contact, but when you back up and go to turn, wow.
And so she
Because why?
is a
Here's the thing, Dave.
37-year-old American citizen.
Here's the thing, though. People might say, "Well, she hit him with the car," but why was your gun drawn?
As soon as you see him draw it as soon as he realizes that he's stupid and he's in front of her.
And he's got
So
protection.
we're gonna get into this, I think, and we're gonna have to see more.
Yeah.
But right now, they finally killed someone. They finally did it,
Well,
and they
that's the
killed
one
a
that we
37-year-old.
have on camera.
She's 37, a mother. As far if we got to make sure we got the right person, so this will develop, but she's not, and I gotta say, the chant Renee Nicole good. I will be surprised if that does not become because it does chant very well, and I think we're going to be saying her name a lot in coming weeks, and So,
Well,
yeah,
here's the thing, and I'm not trying to be funny, as Dave says they finally killed somebody, but there's a whole bunch of family members with people down at that detention center. Where was it in the Everglades that beg to differ with the word finally? Harold, you're closer to that, so you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
This is just something we saw on video and know, but that is crazy. And you saw the other ICE agents ducking, like, dude, where you're just opening fire, not even
yeah,
caring who's in the line of fire
right,
or
like,
anything.
Well,
um,
and that was one of my responses earlier today. How is it that you had ICE agents, but only one of them felt the need to pull his weapon?
yeah. Now,
And he
I'm
wasn't even
not
the one
even.
that
I,
was.
I got to say, in fairness, he was the one in front of the car.
Yeah,
But
but I mean,
Yeah, he
you.
was, but like you said, Dave, he pulled that as these guys are talking. He's the only one that pulls it as he's walking. Like again, like you said, I don't know the verbiage being going back and forth, but it's the same thing with police officers. We've seen videos. There's 10 of them, and there's one that feels the need to pull the gun and unload, and the rest of them are like, what are you doing?
and
No, and nobody else positioned themselves in front of the vehicle either.
yeah,
Which is
and
dumb.
and no
But wait, hold
attempts.
on, Dave. But that's a good point he just said, because one of the things we talked about an
Mhm,
episode ago was the amount of ICE agents that the FBI were finding out that didn't pass physicals, didn't pass mental evaluations, didn't pass so many criterias, and
mhm.
you're throwing out $50,000 bonuses. Who's not going to just come sign up to get handed $50,000 to
I
come
signed up. They didn't call me.
run around like bounty hunters? Well, you don't fit the complexion for the connection. But go ahead, Dave.
And well, and I mean, and these guys are also being probably pumped up with propaganda.
Yeah, they are.
We see who they're led by. Bovino's out there, they're led by two cosplayers, right? Bovino's out there in full battle rattle. I'm like, why do you have a helmet? Why do you have tear gas? You're the frickin' head of the agency, right? Christy Nome, don't get me started. But I think the other thing though is they no attempt to say this is really unfortunate. This is why you have to do what law enforcement tells you. This is a tragedy. We will be investigating. No,
No.
straight to domestic terrorist,
Well,
right?
that's
You
the
just
playbook, Dave. What
right.
happened after Charlie Kirk died? Leftist, lunatic, transgender.
And now can't we all see ourselves in that SUV?
Well, you
Right?
know, me and Harold can.
I mean, that's what I think is going to come out of this. You look at that, I think people will make their own minds up about it very quickly. I mean, you all just had that experience, right? Aren't you on board now? Right?
Wait, hold
Uh,
on. What's this question? Dill Bargain says, so are you guys for or against the invasion?
What
Do you mean
invasion?
the invasion
Maduro,
in Venezuela? Or
Venezuela.
I don't want to pretend that you mean immigrants in America and you're being on that pill. Or are you talking about Venezuela? Which one are, because I don't know what part of the video
Yeah,
you're watching as you comment. So I don't want to jump all over you.
right. Um, I just think that's going to really be, again, we see you could have handled this differently,
Mhm.
and whatever invasion you're talking about, you could have handled it better. Uh, and so I think this is just um,
Oh yeah, he said yes. The title of the YouTube. So
YouTube is
he just joined in.
Venezuela. Yes,
No, we've
he
all
walked in at a bad time. I'm sorry,
yeah,
my
no,
friend.
yeah. That's why I wanted to ask Dill. I didn't want to just because people come on here all the time and they say silly things, but no, we've all condemned that. You don't remove when we said, and you'll probably scroll back and see it. You don't remove a sitting president from a country, especially if it's not a country you're at war with. And like Dave said, and when I rehashed the whole thing, you removed the president, but you didn't remove the regime, so you in fact did nothing because now the
Not
regime
that
is
oil
going
though.
around capturing people who were celebrating when the president was taken. So
But I like that we're getting the tankers. The tankers are good.
you like that we're getting the tank? Are you being sarcastic?
No, no, we got it. No, we
We got
taken.
two of them.
We're taking we did two today, but we're taking more and more. These are
Okay.
sanctioned tankers. This is the Russian shadow fleet. This is awesome. This is,
Mhm.
you know, enforcing international norms. Polar opposite of what the Trump administration normally does, right? And we're pissing Putin off, and we're supporting. We're moving in a direction there, and this is this weird thing of like, okay, that's okay, but certainly killing fishermen.
Nah.
is
Now,
bad. You
shout out
know?
to you, Dill. Dill says, "Okay, cool. Wasn't sure because I've never seen this channel before." Well, thank you for, uh, finding us. But yeah, we condemn
Yeah.
that wholeheartedly. Don't be fooled by seeing two white guys on the screen. We're not We're not MAGA over here. Okay.
Especially this. Yeah.
Well, Chris is here because Chris has a show, episode 2 coming out tomorrow, live
Awesome.
at 11 a.m. called "Searching for Christopher Robin," where he talks. It's basically a mental health channel, but Chris shares mental health trauma that he endured growing up, and it helps a lot. We've gotten a lot of positive reviews on the first episode that it's helped a lot of people. And hey, you get to hear about Keone's trauma a little bit woven
Yeah,
into there. But don't
everybody.
worry, Uncle Harold, you're not in any of my trauma
I'm
that I
not
bring
worried
up.
about that at all. I know
Okay, so you're not
I
in
was
any of
sober.
that.
That's okay.
And it's listen, you're one of the most positive, the top 3 positive influences on my life, right behind
Wow.
my grandfather. You're number 2. Okay,
That's awesome.
so yeah, even though you didn't teach me a lot about Black history when I was growing up.
Your
Anyway,
fault.
let's.
You
He
didn't stay in
is Black
class. That's all.
history. He is Black history.
So Dill says we're gonna get out of here soon, guys. But Dill says I think it was obvious post 9/11, but increasingly it's completely obvious that America as we knew it is gone. Hey, a lot of what he shares a sentiment I've seen a lot on social media saying, how are we gonna get back to the respectability and the way we did things? Post Obama for all the people who thinks he was the worst thing that ever lived. And we've just gone down a shithole since. And some people see it, and a lot of people don't.
I'll
The
tell you to
Make
vote.
America Great Again has been the biggest farce that we have had to deal with. Dave has always said when someone says "Make America Great Again," when are you talking about, and for who?
Yeah. Yeah.
At what point?
I used to always be. I would say, "Excuse me, sir. We never stopped being great." That's usually my line.
Mhm. And this is one for Harold because Dill, this is, thank you, Dill. Dill says, I want to help. I want to get involved. I don't know where or how. That's a perfect one for you, Harold.
Tell them to join the NAACP. Come out, join the committee, get your hands dirty, and go out and get in some good trouble.
He might be, what is he's Irish?
Doesn't matter.
That's right. It doesn't matter. I
Doesn't
was
matter.
setting you
Remember, I
up.
told you the NAACP was founded by 60 people, 7 of which were black.
Oh
So
wow.
it's not a black organization. So
No, don't wow
let's
him,
move the
Chris.
needle
He didn't tell
and
me that when
don't
I was
leave the hype.
7. He didn't tell me that when I was 7. He told me that when I was 47. So,
Well,
Yeah,
he
well,
had to
listen,
wait
he
till
didn't
you were
come to
with.
class. He kept skipping class. That's what happened.
oh,
Uh,
look, he said, I'm Irish, super red bearded hot. Is this a friend of Dave's?
I'm not
I think it's a
exactly the
bot.
most
Is that a bot?
pro-Irish person I know. And
No, it's okay. But
does,
everybody, if you
does
come
this
back
look
to the
Irish
channel,
to
I
you?
will have the promo up tonight. Searching for Christopher Robin, 11 a.m. tomorrow. It's and I say it's a good time, and people go, it's a mental. No, we talk about the trauma, we talk about things, but we also talk about overcoming. And what's that tagline you always say, Chris, at the end?
Make your trauma your triumph.
Make your trauma your
I love
triumph.
it.
Love it. All right, guys, it's been a great
Thank
show.
you very much for having
We'll
me on.
see
I
you.
appreciate it.
You're welcome, even though you
Deuces.
froze. It was good. And oh,
Come back.
Dave, I did torture Chris by making him watch the complete debate, all 1 hour and 20 minutes of the debate with you and Cello. I made him watch that.
You
That's
are a,
so
you
now you
have
just created a new trauma.
control that I only wish I had.
It didn't last past it. I've been very obnoxious about. I've violated all my personal standards that I wish I could have maintained. I am a weak man.
That's okay, Dave. If you want to think about it to make yourself feel better, I have absolutely no standards.
Oh yeah.